Kia ora, it's Ruth here and welcome to my backyard in Christchurch. And I don't know about you, but I'm excited because spring is officially here. We're now the 2nd of September, which means, well, at least the month says it's spring, but with the weather, potentially not so much. I wasn't able to get out yesterday because it was so cold and windy and rainy, but it was actually a really good reminder that while the date says it's spring, the month says it's spring, here in Christchurch, I need to be patient, practice that, and wait a little bit longer for planting things outside. But since I've got my glass house, I have been getting some things ready a little bit early. So I just want to give you a little sneak preview of just some of the flowers that are in my garden at the moment, and then I'll go over what my plan is for September. So just behind me is our peach tree, and we have some absolutely beautiful little blossoms starting to open up. We've got our girls all being very nosy. Down along here, we've got some lovely bulbs that I've got all planted in front of the broad beans and some of our brassicas. So it's really lovely seeing some of these little gorgeous flowers coming up. Calendula. And down here, this is our early apricot. And some of the flowers are even turning into leaves already, which is leaving me a little bit concerned. Even tonight, I think there's meant to be a pretty decent frost, so we'll see how things go. I might be running out to put frost cloth over these beautiful little flowers because I want them to turn into fruit. So what I have is I've started to make a plan for what I want to do this month. Here in the glass house is where I'm keeping things at the moment, and as I said in a previous video, all my plants in here are getting some pretty good TLC, especially these ones that are my little tomatoes and my capsicums and my chilies. They are coming inside overnight still because I'm just so worried about the temperatures. Last night, I'm looking over here, it was 4 degrees last night, so that's actually not too bad. And today it has got up to, about 35 in here. But as you can see now, it's cooling down. These automatic vents have closed. So my plan for September is to get myself ready. So what I've been using is I use the Gardenate email, which every month it emails me twice a month. Once with a halfway through the month, and then an end or a start of the next month, which gives me a what I could be planting this month, and then what I could be planting next month, both as seeds and seedlings, so that's really good. And I've got Sarah the Gardener's vegetable growing book, which I really love. Here in New Zealand it can be really hard sometimes to find things that are related to New Zealand, and what I love is this is done in seasons, so I can kind of pick and choose where I'm at. Sometimes the late winter things I might still be doing in winter, so we'll see. But plan for September. Here is my notebook. You can see that August, I never made a plan, but I was recording quite well all the different temperatures in the glass house. And a few things that I've done. July was nothing, June was not much, May was kind of back to end of kind of spring, oh no, end of autumn. My plan again is to make September count, to really get into things. And one thing I was just thinking actually is I've got my thermometer in here, so I'm pretty good at measuring the glass house temperatures. I think I now need a thermometer outside and maybe a soil thermometer. I might just be getting too technical, but it's quite interesting. I know that tomatoes and all those warm-loving plants really want about 10 degrees, and so currently I'll just be guessing. But if I get a soil thermometer, that will really help me know, and just get a bit scientific. And it'll be really interesting if I track year by year, whether it's about the same time in the year that it happens, whether it's a bit later. So let me go through my list of what I'm planning to plant. So I'm really trying to plant as many things from seed as possible. My New Zealand spinach, that's something I'd planned to do, and you can see in my seed trays here, there is things growing, nothing in my New Zealand spinach section. That is because my seeds were way too old. They expired in 2018, thought I'd give it a go anyway, soaked them, and nothing happened. So I need to get some new Zealand spinach seeds, but that's just a really good example of why soaking seeds, especially if they're old, is a good idea, and also starting them off inside and seed raising, because if I'd put them in the garden I wouldn't have known that the seeds weren't viable. I might have thought the birds had got them and I would have been wasting some space. So that's just my little trick tip. What I really like doing is starting seeds off first in containers and transplanting them, but also if it is old seed, to see if they sprout first. So else on the list, getting some baby spinach growing. Now I've got some already, and my plan is these will go in the shade. Beetroot, carrots, eggplant, lettuce, herbs, some salvia, and general flowers. And I've got artichoke with a question mark there. Artichoke's something I haven't grown before, but I do quite like artichoke hearts, so we might give it a go. I've already got my seedlings that I do need to transplant. So I've got my capsicum, my chili, tomatoes, eggplant, spinach, lettuce, satsui, kohlrabi, and I've just realised that I haven't added my peas in here. So I've got sugar snap and normal peas. Soon I'm going to be having a full garden again. I'm not going to show you the gardens just yet. I'll do them over a couple of videos in the next little while so you can see what I've currently got in, what's been going throughout winter and what's about to come out. But I've got my to-dos, which is definitely feed the beds that need it. I've got my own compost that I've been making, and so I'm going to be putting that into the beds. Feed the strawberries and the blueberries. Create a feeding schedule and mulch, mulch, mulch. I'm sure you'll hear about mulching a lot more from me as we go into our summer season, but mulching I definitely think is the key. And I've never had a feeding schedule before. We're using my worm tea, using my compost tea, and just compost in general. So I really want to think about that. Generally I've heard that's kind of every 2 weeks you want to be giving your plants a feed. Currently it's just been when I remember. So I want to try and get a little bit more regular with that. So I actually remember, did I do it last weekend or did I not? And the last thing that I've written down, because I think it's a really good reminder for September, especially here in Canterbury, is something that Sarah put in her, Sarah the Gardener put one of her last, I think, YouTube videos. I'll link it. You can't get a jump start on nature, which is so true. I can start all my seeds off in here, but if I put them outside too soon, they are just going to freeze and die, and all my weeks put into growing these seeds will not have paid off at all. So I know that with especially the zucchini, with squash, with all those things, I think, oh yeah, I forgot to add, one of the lists was end of September, mid-September is the pumpkins, squash, and zucchini. Those are things that I want to get started, but I'll wait a little bit longer because those aren't going to be grown in the glass house. They'll be grown out here in the garden, and if it is going to be frost, they'll just curl up their toes and die. And if it's not, or at least above that 10 degrees, they won't start growing very well. And I know that if I planted one when it was under 10 degrees, then another one it's 15. The 15 one, even though it's been planted later, will probably take off so much faster because it's just happier. So that is my plan for September. I'll be showing you around the garden shortly. I'll do a kind of whip round just so you can see everything that's going on, and then I'll give you a bit of a bed by bed breakdown so I can show you what's happening. And I'm really excited. It is spring, it's definitely getting warmer. We'll be having some cold snaps and I'll show you those as well, but there's a lot more things that can happen. So join me if you'd like to, subscribe if you'd like to, and see what's happening in September and onwards through this spring into summer season. My plan is to grow as much as I can, especially with this kind of strange COVID climate. I would love, love, love to have ample sufficiency of all my fruit and veggies to be able to give away to friends and neighbours and to the community stalls, and I challenge you to do that as well. If you do have a garden, plant 1 or 2 extras if you've got the space, or find the space so that you do have things to hand on to other people, because sharing is just fantastic, especially when it's so fresh straight out of your garden. So thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you next time. Ka kite!